Love Yours, an experimental podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Love Yours. I'm your host, Chidera, and this is season 3, episode 6. So if you're new to this podcast, Love Yours is an experimental podcast where I read the books of Black authors and aim to apply my learning to my life. And in this season, we are learning all about relationships with Chidera Eggerue, aka the Slumflowers. What a time to be alone. The Slumflowers Guide to Why You're Already Enough. Now, we have been getting deep. We've been delving into these relationships. We've talked about being kind on the last episode, the ride or die mentality, being honest with yourself, and also my fixer mentality. Now, as I continue reading, I've got to a point in the book that Chidera is actually triggering thoughts of season 1 of Love Yours, because she's basically explaining that what's yours won't miss you. Now, I've always operated from a place of acting like I can control everything around me, and so by force I will get what I want. But what I've had to learn the hard way is when you try to force things, they never last. And Chidera even talks about when you start losing things for no reason, it's so easy to have the why me mentality. Now, let's be real. Everyone has their down days. Everyone has their days where they feel like life is against them, everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and someone has just dealt them the short stick that day. And to be honest, I see this play out in a lot of my relationships. I see it so often because in a lot of my relationships, I am that kind of hope, optimism, advice line. And so the why me, I have so many conversations with people about this and about their circumstances of why me. So whether it's a colleague, a friend, or a family member, there's always someone talking to me about how hard their life is and why it's so unfair. Now, when they ask me for advice, I try and reassure them that this is temporary. Trust me, nothing lasts forever. I often use myself as an example because people close enough to me, especially friends and family, know I've had to overcome a lot of obstacles in my time. And, majority of the time, I feel like they leave the conversation a little bit more positive and uplifted. But the reality is, when you are down, in low mood, feeling sorry for yourself, even though we know those feelings don't last forever, and even though we're told you can't have happiness without sadness, that feeling of why me takes over. It's so consuming. And when I think back like 8-9 months ago, there's nothing no one could have told me that would have made me feel like it's not a why me situation. And the thing is, Chidera talks about that behaviour becoming addictive. I believe it. A couple of my core shakers were definitely why me people. And this is probably why I was attracted to them, because the fixer in me wanted to save their day. But you have to replace that addiction. You have to replace it with something more positive that is also addictive, like journaling, working out, a fun hobby, anything that shifts you out of that mood and that mindset. Because I feel like the longer you're in that mindset, the harder it is to come out of it. Because you become comfortable. You become used to that lifestyle for yourself. You start to believe and accept that this is as good as it will ever get. But that's never true. It can always get better, by the hour, by the day, by the week, by the month. In family, challenging those behaviours is a lot more difficult because I often get the reaction that I don't understand, I couldn't comprehend how they're feeling. And of course, no one will ever fully understand how anyone else is feeling. But I still think even if it's not working, I have to be the voice of reason to suggest that it's going to be okay in the end. I can't remember where I seen it, but I basically seen that without hope and without purpose, it's so much easier to die. Like physically, like scientifically, it is so much easier for your body to give up on itself if you don't have hope and purpose. Just knowing that is so scary because so many people in my life don't have either, which is why I spend a lot of time an energy fixing. What Chidera goes on to explain is that no matter how we're feeling in the moment, no matter how why me the situation is, our blessings do not get lost. Sometimes we just have to take the scenic route, the long way round, over the mountains, under the water. And I have definitely, over the 10 years, had to get used to the scenic route. I genuinely believed when I started my career in 2012 that by 2015 I would have been made. Obviously, over 10 years later, that is not how it played out. I am on the scenic route. And I remember in those early years, everyone being like, don't worry, it's going to happen for you. Trust the process. Enjoy the journey. And I remember thinking, how can I enjoy this journey? I just need to get up that mountain. And then I even remember a really good DJ friend of mine saying, you know what, climbing the mountain's the fun bit. Once you're at the top, it's all about how long until you fall off. And I've literally seen people climb up that mountain and fall off that mountain in the 10 years that I've been in this industry. And I think it's taken 10 years of this scenic route for me to finally start enjoying the journey. Mainly because I've just taken the pressure off myself of thinking I need to do stuff by a certain age, by a certain date. I've also tried to shake, as you know, in season 1, and even in this season, that why me mentality, and try and think that whatever is happening, it's to help me grow. It's not to throw me off my course. And especially within my mothering and how I've adjusted to being a mum of 2 and working full time, I'm really trying to accept the here and now. And even Chidera says that is how you will have more peace. Even today, earlier, my son went to nap, had a few hours to myself. And the first thing I did was start overthinking and getting really anxious about this uncomfortable meeting I'm going to be in tomorrow evening. And I had to be like, stop. You're actually about to use up the time your son's asleep worrying. No. There's so much better things you could do with that energy and that time. So it's even like daily having to pause and check myself to make sure I'm being mindful for the most peace. And I'm not sure if I said this on a previous episode because I've said it to a few friends because it's something I recently discovered. Apparently, you can't have gratitude while you're anxious. And while you're feeling grateful, you can't feel anxious. So I just keep telling myself that in my moments of anxiousness, that just be grateful, just be grateful, just be grateful, practice the gratitude. This is just a temporary feeling about something that is completely out of your control. That's the thing about anxiety. It's usually about things that are completely out of our control. So yeah, let's try to shake off this why me mentality and instead just focus on the here and now and see what is in our power to control and what isn't. What can we improve and what do we have to let play out? Honestly, it's going to make such a difference. Reading a few more pages, Chidera then goes on to talk about if you feel like you're trying too hard, especially with people, you probably are. Honestly, I had to learn this. I used to feel such guilt about not seeing people for a long time. I mentioned this on the previous episode that coming off of WhatsApp definitely made a difference to how many people remembered me. And since I've stopped stressing about catching up with people who I haven't seen for a couple months, honestly, life's been easier. I was really trying too hard to be there for everyone and see everyone, and it was almost like every day off was a rotation of who could have my time. There was never a thought of how do I want to spend my day off. It was always, okay, you've got a day off, you need to see this person, this person. Sometimes I would see 4 people in one day just to tick off all the boxes, kill all the birds. And then I started noticing, and this definitely plays into where I live at the moment, I was always the person traveling to the people. I can count on one hand, if we exclude my family, how many friends have come to visit me in the flat that I've lived in for almost 2 years. I've lived away from my friends and family for the last 6 years, and I can still count on one hand, excluding my birthday, because obviously you've got to come wherever I plan for my birthday. How many people have come and visited me since I've lived on this side of London even? It's actually quite sad. I'm constantly back and forth between west and south and east visiting people, but literally no one comes to see me. My mum does, and my brother will come with my mum, and that's it. If my doorbell rings and I'm not expecting a delivery, I'm like, who the fuck is that? because that's how little and often anyone comes to visit me. So I definitely realised in the last 6-7 months I was trying way too hard with way too many people. And Chidera talks about that. She's like, what's real cannot be forced. And I've even noticed now that since my circle's got smaller, I miss them more. Before it would be, oh, I can't see this Friday because I've got to see this friend, this and this. I'll see 3 Fridays from now. Whereas now, like, any free time I've got that is not for myself, I just want to see my closest people, because I'm realising how valuable my time is, and I don't have to try hard with them. It just feels natural to want to be around them, to want to see them. They want to see me. They still don't visit me as much as they should, if you're listening, but like the effort is still there, whether it's through messages, whether it's a phone call, voice notes, or a visit. We equally care about each other's well-being. And something really nice that Chidera says, and I guess this can be this episode's quote: you'll mean the world to someone one day, maybe not forever, but you will find love. And it won't just be from your mother. Honestly, and I mean, that in itself is a complicated statement for me, but there is that fear that only a mother can love us wholeheartedly. But I don't believe it. I know a few, not many, but a few couples who are so happy in love. And I truly believe if they can find it, anyone can. There's nothing particularly special about them. And Chidera also stresses that it may not be how you expected it to be when you find love, or be with who you expected it to be with, but love is not limited. I agree with that. I feel like as long as you're living on this earth, there's a chance to feel love. And so I guess the main message I'm taking from this episode is just enjoy the season. I definitely had to learn the hard way that not everything can last forever, and we're always so worried about what's next, what's coming tomorrow, 3 months time, 6 months time, next year. Just being more mindful and enjoying your current circumstances more, finding the joy in those small moments in your current circumstances is honestly making such a difference to my mood. We'll just have to enjoy the season more. We're in spring. Just think about spring. Stop worrying about summer. Christmas, I know, comes around so fast, but it's far, far off. Just enjoy the current season. So let's wrap it up there. As usual, thank you so much for listening. I hope you're enjoying the podcast and I hope you're enjoying the book. Make sure, if you are, to tell a friend. Subscribe, obviously, like, follow, share, and we will catch up on the next episode. Love Yours, an experimental podcast